Hello and welcome back. In this lecture, we are going to see how we can use field mapping and mapping function which are built in our indexer configuration. Now, one important thing to note here is field mappings are only available at the root level fields. So you cannot map nested fields. So in our example, in our Cosmos DB, you can map fields which are at the root level like record ID, dataset ID, record timestamp, but not standard underscore street, site ID or p coordinates. Now you can map these, but you will have to run your Cosmos query to flatten these fields and bring it to the root level. Now we will quickly create an example, make configuration changes in our indexer. We'll add a field mapping where we are going to remap our record ID to a new field name, encoded record ID, and we are also going to encode this record ID, which is a string, into a base 64 encoded string. Right now, if you remove mapping function and keep it as null instead of base 64 encode value here, you will simply map this record ID to a new field in your index with encoded record ID name. So for example, if you simply want to remap your underscore timestamp field to TS field, instead of running it in Cosmos query, you can remap it here. So if you go back to your property index, you're going to add a new field here called encoded record ID. I'm going to make it searchable, filterable and everything. So we have a new field here. Now let's go back to we need to save it. Now let's go back to our indexers, property. So here in my indexer definition, under field mappings, I want to add a new mapping, which will be an object here. So I need to provide source field name, which is record ID coming from our Cosmos, and then I'm going to provide my target field name. This will be encoded record ID, and also I need to provide a mapping function. Now if I keep my value null here, it will not do anything. It will simply copy my record ID to a new field as is without any encoding. But let's say if I want to encode my record IDs into base 64 encoded strings, then I need to provide base 64 encode function name here, right? So that's all it takes to map a new field with mapping function name. Now if you go to documentation available for field mappings, you can see that if you scroll down, you will see that there are about 6 different functions which are built in available for you. So let's say you are saving a HTTP URL, you can encode and decode the URL before saving and while fetching it. You can also convert your JSON array to string collections, etc. And also, of course, base 64 encoding and decoding. So I have attached this link in my resources, so you can refer to this link if you need. I'm going to save my indexer. Now because we have added a new field, we need to reset my index and run it again so that we fetch all the data from Cosmos and add this new field to each item before indexing. Let's run it. Go to execution history. This is in progress. So you can see that there was some overload in indexing our data because of the new field mapping, So earlier we were indexing the data around 8 seconds, now it took 2 more seconds. But still, with more replicas and more partitions, you can achieve it within 2 to 3 seconds for 10,000 documents. So our indexing is done. Let's go to our index and just simply click on search, and now you can see that our new field has the base 64 encoded value for our record IDs. Right? But now our record ID does not have any value. This has been mapped to null. So take care that when you map a field, the original one is not available anymore. Now field mappings can all be done at the root level. So dataset ID, record ID, we just did that. But it's not available for the nested items. To map these nested attributes, we need to use one of the shaper skill, which will pick this nested attribute and map it to one of the root fields. In our next lecture, we are going to do that. We are going to use a shaper skill, which is an inbuilt skill, not a custom skill, to map our state_id at the root level. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.